So I love versatile guys. I love switchable guys. We like to switch 1 through 5 defensively if we can. And if we don't, we definitely want to go 14 switch with a 5 hard edge recover or a 5 double fist or trap or something to disrupt an ice on the wings. So those guys that are capable of being versatile and adaptable to different types of defenses gives you tools in your tool belt when you're playing a team that you may not match up well against. You got to create some mismatches.
Hi, I'm Corey Baldwin.
And I'm Dan Searle. We're back with a new Off the Beaten Path, a podcast for basketball coaches living in obscurity, working in obscurity, and even those who have made it out of obscurity.
And it's a place for storytelling. Some of them are true, some of them maybe not. Learning, connecting, reconnecting, and food for thought. And my favorite part, food for the belly. And today, Searle, give us a little intro on our special guest today.
He is a special guest, an old friend. We go way back to the Georgia days. But Lance, you are now on the California side of things and have lots of stories to tell in your path back to South Florida days, through Daytonas, through Georgia, to multiple stops. Yeah, exactly.
Kentucky, Northwest, man, the guys everywhere. All right, Lance, start us off. How in the world did you even get into coaching? Did it start when you were playing? Was it high school? Was it something you knew? Tell us about it. Let's go.
Yeah, well, first thing, Dan and Corey, you guys are two good friends, guys in the business that I've known for a long time, and what you guys are doing here, just bringing a spotlight to those that aren't in the spotlight normally, that are doing it, for the love of the game and for the love of the impact that they make on young people's lives. It's good to see you guys again. So thank you. And I'll tell you what, I got into coaching kind of in one of those ways that it was unintended. I had never intended to be a coach, but God works in mysterious ways, and it was one of those deals where I just kept blowing out my knee in college, and my basketball identity as a player kept on getting ripped away from me, and in that I had to keep finding out who I was as a person, kind of without basketball being the central spot, and in that, every time that I blew my knee out and I had to have surgery and I had to have these rehabs and whatnot, I got these opportunities to coach. Hey, can you help coach this rec league team? And sure, why not? I got nothing else going on. I might as well go over there and coach some kids. And then, hey, can you come help coach this AAU program? And I show up the first day and the head coach says, hey, my wife got pregnant. Here, you're the head coach now. So I thought I was just going in to help 2 days a week. And next thing you know, I'm running an AAU program while I'm in college and so forth, and had to learn that. And then when I got finished with college, I had an opportunity to go into professional sports, and because coaching really hadn't sunk in that this is where I'm supposed to be and how I'm supposed to be doing it. And I was the merchandise manager for the Tampa Bay Rays in their inaugural season at Tropicana Field when they went into the Major League Baseball. And then I was the director of merchandising for the Tampa Bay Bucks in their first season when they moved over to Raymond James Stadium. And I got to see the business side of sports at the professional level, and it was fantastic. And at the same time, it wasn't where I wanted to be. So I was making good money. I had a successful career that I could have packed, that I could have went down. I thought would have been very, very, very financially rewarding, and rewarding in other ways too. But there was something that was missing. And the year prior to walking into the job with the Rays that I kind of lucked into, right place, right time, and that moving into the Bucks, I'd interviewed for some different graduate assistantships, and one of them was Georgia Tech. And I'd been offered a position up there, and I made a phone call to get back in and find out whether or not I could make it back up there. And in that, I was able to go back up. I started off on the recreation side, and then I just walked over to the athletic side, and I made myself available. And I talked to Coach Crimmins, and he found some jobs and some stuff for me to do. Bobby Crimmins, another Hall of Famer over at Georgia Tech.
Corey smiles because he is a massive Bobby Crimmins and Georgia Tech fan over there, right? Always the Jackets, South Florida, and JUCO references on this podcast over and over.
Always.
Well, there you go. So I walk over there. He doesn't know me from anyone, and he took me on, and you know, obviously, an extra body, somebody who had been around basketball, and somebody that was willing to mop the floors and seal letters and you know, do whatever, you know, grunt work that needed to get done so that the program could operate well.
Mm-hmm.
And a couple of months, that was in January of '99, and a couple months later, Coach Crimmins made the decision to step down and retire from basketball, although it was only short-lived for a couple of years. He did step down, and I said, well, what does this mean for me? Because I was moving my graduate assistantship over to the athletic department, and I was going to be working with basketball, and I thought, well, I might be out of luck. Well, Coach Hewitt, Paul Hewitt, comes in and he relieves the entire staff of basketball coaches, with the exception of this brand new GA who was coming over, because, you know, I was new, and I was helping, you know, try to develop, you know, get the camps and get the campers in and deliver, you know, flyers, get the word out, and really I didn't have a deep tie to Coach Crimmins at that point. So Coach Hewitt kept me on, and I had an opportunity to work with Coach Hewitt, and really learned a lot from him. He's really kind of he was a guy that when I would see out after I left Georgia Tech and graduated as a GA, and I was a head coach at Oxford College of Emory University. Like, you know, you see him out on the recruiting trail, and he's the big timer in the ACC. He's the guy that walks up to you, grabs you by the hand, and says, "Hey, let's go to lunch." And then he takes you over to the ESPN zone next to the Milk House down in Florida, but Central Florida, not South Florida. And you have yourself a nice lunch. But, you know, that's kind of how I broke in, man. It was by happenstance. It was by things. And it was like I said, I think God was placing me in spaces where I had to learn more about myself so that I could be the right type of coach. And it ended up being something that, you know, once I got going, I've loved it so much. I've never looked at another career. It's just been what I've done for over 2 decades now, since '99. I guess I'm in 22 years of coaching college basketball.
How about that? And you mentioned your knee a couple of times, 3 times. How many of those knee injuries did you have, man, that put you down and put you into coaching?
I had 3 complete ACL tears. The first one was the worst. It was ACL, MCL, LCL, and cartilage. And there was 2 surgeries to repair that. Came all the way back, and I blew it out right before I got back on the court. And I felt really good about my game at that point. And then I had 2 more surgeries to get that one done, cartilage and ACL. And then the second ACL reconstruction didn't take as well as what we hoped. So we ended up having to go back in a 3rd time and having a 3rd. So 5 total surgeries on the left knee and 3 complete reconstructions.
And your last one was when you were at St. John's River playing? Was that your last one?
No, actually, the last one that I had was at Georgia Tech. The after my playing career was over. So I had 4 in college, 2 while I was at South Florida, and 2 while I was at St. John's River.
Wow, how about that? And this is the reason. This was Lance's excuse while I could get past him on the basketball court when we were playing pickup in grad school, right?
That's a true story.
Lance would not guard anybody. And now I kind of believe it. At the time, I was like, excuses. I'm just too good.
I love it. I take us, you leave Georgia Tech. Where do you go to next?
After Georgia Tech, I was fortunate. I was doing the master's program over at Georgia State University. And one of the guys in my classes was John Hartwell, who's now the athletic director at Utah State University, great friend of mine. But he was in one of the courses the first semester I was in grad school, and we got a chance to connect. He was on his way out of finishing the program. I was on my way in. And during that crossover, we struck up a friendship. He had played basketball at the Citadel, and it was an opportunity for me to connect with somebody that was in the department. And I saw that a job had opened up on Coach Drizel's staff as the director of basketball operations, and it was a position that interested me. And so I called John up and I said, hey, you know, you're an assistant AD over here at Georgia State. Is this a position I should be interested in? Would I have a shot? He goes, you'd be the perfect guy. He goes, coach is out of town. He's over in Bethesda. Coach, that's Lefty Drizel. That's the coach, you know, Hall of Famer, just inducted in Naismith Hall of Fame, and probably one of the greatest college coaches in the history of the game. And he goes, Coach is over in Bethesda at the beach house. He's going to be there for quite a bit, but let me call him. And I know he's looking actively to find the right guy for this position, and I'm going to tell him about you. Can you send me over your materials and whatnot, or mail them to me? I don't even know if we had email at that point. I think we did.
It wasn't that long ago.
It seems that long ago. But we
Lefty wasn't checking his email though. Don't worry about it.
Coach didn't have email. Like, we had some administrative assistants that tried to get Lefty into the email, and he just told him it ain't happening. You're not teaching this old dog any of those new tricks. But it was great because John Hartwell called him, and he gave Coach my number. And about an hour later, my phone rings, and it's a number that I don't know, but I answer it, and I'm, hello. He's like, hey, Lance, this is Coach Lefty Jessup. And I'm like, okay, so I guess this is happening. I guess John made the phone call. We talked, got my materials overnight to him so that he could read them. Went down to FedEx, got the stuff sent out. He called me the next day. Said, I'm gonna call you tomorrow. Calls me the next day. We talk, and says he's gonna call me the next day. Calls me the next day. This is Saturday, and we talked for about another 30, 45 minutes, and then calls me on Sunday afternoon and says, hey, I want you to go down and meet the assistant coaches on Monday. So then I went from never speaking with Lefty, never meeting him in person still to this point, but spoke with him 4 consecutive days. And then he sends me in on Monday to meet with his other assistant coaches, which at the time was Michael Perry and Travis Williams. And those are 2 of the best guys that I've ever met in my entire life. And absolutely love those men, great men of God, and just great people that were there for the right reasons and helped us win a lot of games. So next thing you know, I'm in the next morning at like 11 o'clock. I'm in an office with Travis and Mike, and they're talking with me and they were vetting me. And I thought that was fantastic. It was good times. And I walk out the door. I thought I went well. And then I get a phone call from Lefty when I'm walking down the street over to the athletic department administration office to go thank John Hartwell, just no matter how it turned out, just for the fact that he went to bat and introduced me to Coach. And while I was on the walk over to John, it was Coach Drizel offering me the position. And one of the unique thing about that, though, is I worked for Lefty for a month before I ever met him. I talked to him 15 times a day on the phone because he was over at the beach house. But when he was at the beach house, people think that he was lounging on the beach. They got that all wrong. He had his hand in every decision we made in the program. While he was at the beach house, spent time with his family, his sons, daughters, and his grandkids. And it was just an amazing thing to see a guy with that type of purpose still after coaching for 40 years in the game.
And no let up at all. And Corey loves connecting dots and seeing how the 6 degrees of separation works here. For one, we've had the Lefty grandsons on this podcast, and they've told their stories of following in the left-hander's footsteps. And then also, I left Georgia State basketball operations to go coach with Corey at Clayton State, opening up basketball ops there with the old left-hander, and there Lance slides in and does incredible work. So it all comes together, doesn't it?
Well, I gotta thank you for my opportunity, because I may not be sitting in my seat today, Dan, if you hadn't went down to coach with Corey, and was it Coach Gordon Givens at Clayton State?
Right before that, it was Coach Jimmy Hebron, who was a Cremens guy for many years.
Tie back again.
There you go.
Exactly, right, Corey?
Hey, but more importantly, did you go eat at 6 feet under when you went to eat with John after getting the gig? I mean, where'd y'all go eat?
After you know what? There was this little 6 feet under. No, but we probably went down to Mary Mac's tea room, which you can't beat that Southern food. And then there was another place around the corner. I don't think it's there anymore, but it used to be called Son's Place. You ever eat at Son's Place, Dan, Corey?
I don't think I did. That doesn't sound familiar.
No.
It was one of the most traditional Southern cuisine places you can get. You walk in, and I mean, it's cafeteria style. You're picking stuff out. They're slapping it on the plate, and it moves fast. And you better know what you're doing, because they're talking fast, and you may miss it. And then if you're a first timer, whoever's bringing in the first timer, lets the cashier know when they get there. And then when you get up there, you're not expecting it. They start ringing this bell, and they're first timer. The whole place starts slamming their trays on the ground and are hitting their their utensils, and then it's a party.
How about that?
I like it.
My food memory from the Georgia State years is learning to love cheese grits at the Georgia State cafeteria there.
I like it. All right, Lance, jump back on. So from Georgia State, where do you land next?
Well, we can't skip the fact that we were back-to-back conference champions, and that we went to the NCAA tournament. We knocked off a small team called Wisconsin. We always say that we were the ones who helped Bo Ryan get his job, okay? Because Brad Soderberg was a coach, fantastic coach, by the way. But the Wisconsin faithful were a little upset. They thought that they should be in the Final Four every year, and when they weren't, they had a little bit of a slide down the stretch. They were a 6 seed. We came in as 11 seed. We're 28-4 going into the tournament. And next thing I know, we're playing Wisconsin. We beat them in a barn burner, 50-49. And a 4-point play by Daryl Cooper, absolute amazing foul on a 3-point shot was critical. And then a steal by Cheeks, okay, coming downhill. And he pulls up for this 8-foot over a 6'10" and a 6'9" guy from about 12 feet on the right, just below the elbow, goes off the backboard, Tim Duncan style, crushes it. Kirk Penny misses a 50-footer at the end of the game, and we win 50-49. We're the talk of the NCAA tournament. Some of the best times I had was working there, and the guys I work with. And I got to mention my guy Bobby Champagne, okay, who was the head coach at North Alabama for quite some time, but he coached with us in year 2. Year 1, down the pipe, Freddie Reich, okay, the big shooter from Tyler, Texas, and was also the head coach at Angelo State University. And those are just part of my journey, and they're the reasons that I ended up learning so much as the young coach on staff. Is those guys along with Coach Giselle.
And that was the tacky tack back then, right? Y'all were in the tack, right?
We did it both the TAC and the ASUN. So the first year was the TAC. The next year was the ASUN. So we closed down the TAC, right? Blew it up, all right? And they said, we got to make a new conference. And so they put us in a new conference. We went and won that thing too.
I love it.
Lefty's a winner forever and anywhere. You got to love it.
So after that, there was an opportunity that I wanted to get on the floor as a director of ops. You're limited in your role and your scope and the things that you could do. At that time, you could recruit within 30 miles of the radius of campus. The rule was that. So I did recruit Atlanta area while I was on staff, and I helped shore up all the recruiting efforts for the team. But I wanted to be on the floor with the guys, coaching actively at practice, not just taking stats and doing other things like that. And so there was an opportunity for me to go to a startup program at Oxford College and Emory University. They've been playing in the JUCO League for a few years, but hadn't won more than 6 games in a season, and didn't offer scholarships, but had the academics of Emory University, a top 15 university in the country. And I just wanted to see, what I could do as a head coach, and it was my foot in the door. And it was about, I didn't have to move. It was just 30 minutes away, 30 miles on the highway, drive out and find out. I got some advice from some coaches that I really respected, and they said, it sounds like a death trap. And I said, okay, I love it. Let's do it.
Sign me up.
my thinking was, when I went to Oxford College, Emory University, was if I can win there, I can win anywhere, right? I mean, just the cards are stacked against you. But I did believe that if you can go in there and if you can instill some values and really teach the guys well, and you really develop your players, that you're going to have an opportunity to win. And went there in the first year, we were 6-18, Corey, and that's probably the best job I've ever done coaching, was that 6-18 record, because we were terrible. I mean, I don't even know how we won 6 games. I think every game we won by was about like a buzzer beater, but somehow the kids believed and they did a great job. Year 2, we ended up starting off slow, but we ended up winning 15 out of our last 19 games, I think, and we won our region title. And then in year 3, we won a region title and an inter-region championship, finished in the top 10 in the nation for NJCAA Division III, and it was It was a lot of fun. I mean, I got a chance to really find out more about myself as a coach because I had to make the decisions and live with the results. And some of them were good and some of them were bad, but I was doing it in an environment where I had the freedom to do it without the external pressures. Like I didn't have the pressures of my first head coaching job being at, a Division I school, that you have a fan base and there's a pay and there's media. I could kind of do it in a little bit of a bubble, and it was a little bit isolated in the fact that we were able to build something there. And by the time when we first got there was 4 fans in the stands when we had a game. And by the time we left, it was standing room only and the gym was packed. So it was pretty cool.
That's pretty good work. But what is something, because you were in that bubble, as you describe it, Lance, what is something that you messed up and learned from? Do you have one of those memories, one of those learning curves that might have happened there?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many. It's hard to isolate just one. From a player standpoint, I think that making sure that you're recruiting the guys that have the capacity to do what they're asking you to do. It's when that was kind of when I started building out a criteria for the type of players that I want to play for me in a program, because I know that these types of players, if I can get these things, that they embody these things, that they're going to work well with me. They're going to have the right mindset. So I've developed that. I've got 5 criteria that I look for right now today at Jessup, but that was kind of born out of making sure that I recruited the right type of guys so that there's better retention and better results. On the staffing side, I had to learn how to lead a staff, communication. I had to learn how to oversee a graduate assistant and an assistant coach. I had to learn how to lead up the chain, through my athletic director and through the VPs to the president, as well as lead down the chain all the way down through the players and the team managers. And there was a lot of, mistakes that I made that I think, ultimately impacted either the experience of the coaching staff or the players that I was able to learn from in that bubble that I would have otherwise not. I don't have one specific item though that I think like just pops out. There's probably too many to count.
Well, one thing before we go to the criteria, I'm definitely interested in hearing this, but I want to brag a little bit on you. I don't think people realize, D3 junior colleges ran mainly in New York and the Northeast, and there's some sprinkles in the Midwest and then Texas, but hardly any in the South unless it's North Carolina. And for you to even get games, you had to meet certain win. I mean, it was tough for you. You were the only D3 in Georgia or Florida. And not only did you educate all of us that were around, that we learned what D3 JUCO was from you guys winning and going up to the national tournament and doing things. And I think it's unbelievable. Unbelievable. I mean, it would be like, I don't even know if there is an example, but football being good in the Northwest in a Southern Conference league all of a sudden, be like, what? How did that happen? And even more so in your scenario because there were no other teams. And you did it. It's unbelievable.
It was so much fun. I mean, it was so much fun. And it was like everything was stacked against us. So, we had nothing to lose. So how good could we become? And it was exciting. And the thing was, we were the only team. We had to go to North Carolina to get another NJCAA D3 game. We had to drive to North Carolina to do that. And then when we started beating the NJCAA D1 teams and the NJCAA D2 teams, late in year 2 and then through year 3, it was gratifying to know that we could have a bunch of kids that had to pay their own way 100% at one of the top 15 universities in the country. And then we could go compete against junior colleges that had full rides and compete favorably, with the exception of the one that just kept getting away from us, which was Georgia Perimeter, but they were pretty good at that time. I mean, Georgia Perimeter, top 5 in the country. They would have 7 to 8, D1 guys and high major guys on their roster, and they would kind of overwhelm us a little bit. We never did get a win over them.
And most of those teams in the North, by the way, were public universities.
They were all. They were only private, yeah, for sure.
All right, go ahead, sir. My bad. I said throw one more brag.
No, I was just gonna say how Lance is a true coach, where he remembers plays in his mind clearly as the Cheeks shot goes off the backboard. He also remembers those recruiting pitches. I'm sorry, is Emory top 15 in the nation academically? How many times have you said that already? Those come right back out. But hey, let's talk about that criteria that you started to kind of formulate at Oxford, and you now have those 5 points that you follow as you're hopefully looking to sign and keep players at Jessup.
Absolutely. The key thing is getting the right guys. It's not convincing a guy to come to your program. And I had to work through that. I was pretty good at talking and communicating, and had a communications degree. And I think you have a communications degree too, Dan, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
And in that can be a blessing and a curse. And I realized that in order for me to truly be successful with the guys and to maximize their talents, we had to develop who we wanted. So I've got them up on my board. I'm looking at them right now. But number one was competitive spirit. Okay, it's that person who loves to compete. You know, it doesn't matter if they're playing, cards or quarters or a board game or basketball. They love to compete. When they're in the classroom, they want to do well. You know, they love that drive to compete. They're the guy that rolls over to help, takes the charge. They're the guy that's the first to the floor. They're the guy that's going to make the extra effort plays every single day. So we look at that. That's one of the defining characteristics. And we grade it on a scale of 1 to 5. And that 1 to 5, 5 being elite being the top 2 to 2.5 to 3% of any group of people, any body of people. We want somebody to be in a 4 or 5 range. If we can get guys into the 5 range, and that's going to be pretty good. Mental and physical toughness is number 2. Mental, this comes from Bobby Knight, and his mental is 4 to the physical is 1. And Bobby Knight teams were always known as the most mentally tough and prepared teams that you could have. And in that, he focused on the mental toughness of the guys 4 times as much as the physical toughness, because he believed that the mental toughness drove that physical toughness. And that's the same for me. So when we're watching film of guys that we start to recruit, or in person at a recruiting event, we want to see, how does this guy respond to the adverse moments mentally? How does he work through the issues when things aren't going his way? What type of effort comes out after a bad call or a bad play by a teammate, that cost them a moment? How does he respond after coming out of the game in a moment where he wanted to stay in the game? What type of mental toughness? Does he shut down, or does he push through? And that drives the physical toughness plays, which again is something you have to have. When you're watching the NCAA tournament, the teams that made it to the Sweet 16 and the Elite 8 and the Final 4, which we're right at right now, the Final 4 for Division I, these are mentally tough physical teams. They win with grinded out and just playing the game tough. I mean, UCLA is shutting people down. Oregon State, who wasn't good during the year, they go on a run in the Pac-12 tournament, and then they make it to the Elite 8 of the NCAA tournament. And they were setting records that have never been done in the NCAA tournament before on shooting percentage, because of how tough they were and physical they were, mentally tough and physical they were on defense. Number 3 is leadership. And leadership is really identified who's going to hold the team standard and who's going to bring other people towards it. I think that there's cynics in every program. Those are the guys that are blaming, complaining, defending their position, always negative in nature, and they're always recruiting the guys that are kind of just compliant, that just do just enough for the coach, so the coach stay off the coach's radar and out of the doghouse. You got the committed dudes who come in every day, they do a little extra work, they're always there, they're there for the team. And then you got the compelled guys. Those are your leaders. Those are the ones that recruit the committed to become compelled. Those dudes are the dudes that, if you get compelled guys to bring committed guys up, that's when you get something special. And that's leadership. And that's when they own the locker room rather than you.
What are those tiers again? Start at the bottom.
Compliant. I'm sorry, the cynic. Okay, which is that negative dude that you don't want to be around, just sucks the energy out of the room. Okay. Yep. You got the compliant. They just stay right off the coach's radar, right? They're just doing just enough to get by, easily recruited by the cynic. Okay. Then you've got the committed dudes. Those are the horsepower of your team. And those are the guys that are not yet leaders, but they do extra work. They believe in the team mission. They hold the team standards. They just may not bring other people along with them. And then you got the compelled. Those are the both feet in. They're there for pre-practice. They're getting their extra shots. When they see a teammate not holding a team standard, whether it be on the court or off the court, in the dorms or in the community, they're the ones who step up and they say, hey, that's not the way we roll here. And they help teammates along.
Hey, Lance, I'm showing this podcast to Nico, to my 7th grade son, because we had this happen at practice yesterday. And he was like, well, what do I do? It's, my guy on the team is acting the fool in our scrimmage at the end and pushing people instead of staying focused. And like, how do you become that compelled guy to bring the committed kid along? I love the way you've put words and philosophy to both recruiting and to your program. These are the basis of your program, aren't they, Lance?
They are. They're foundational. We have a group of things that we work on every single day, and they're all related to things I'm sharing with you right now. We try to anchor in on the core, and so we just have core beliefs, and we talk exactly about what they mean. And our guys, if you're in the program, everybody understands those criteria. Everybody understands the 4 C's that we just discussed that relate to leadership. And everybody understands things like E plus R equals O, the event plus the response equals your outcome. And we talk about micro events and macro events and how the micro leads to the macro. And it's just real basic stuff, easily digestible, that when we do our pre-practice and we do our post-practice, we're touching base on one of those core tenets every single day, and it's really trying to anchor them into who we are and what our culture is all about.
I love it. I love it. I took you off track though. We talked about leadership as that 3rd piece of the criteria. Let's finish those up on your wall. And hey, do us a favor. You're not on a desktop there. Turn your camera. Let's see the posting on the wall, if you don't mind.
Okay. Yeah. Here we go.
William Jessup.
See it right up there?
Okay, and it stays on the board. I love it. All right.
Stays up in the corner. It doesn't come off. It's the do not erase zone.
Is that the Mel Kiper board?
Yeah, I got a full wall of fathead or whatever you want to call it. Wall art. I look at it every day.
Is that the Mel Kiper board for recruiting, or is that more for the athletic director?
It depends on if we're done recruiting. Well, you're never done recruiting, but if we've already filled our class, it becomes the AD board. But my staff knows that's when they come in, it's most likely going to have recruits' names up on that board.
Like. So what's number 4 and number 5?
Is intelligence. So we talk about multiple. For basketball, it's basketball IQ. This one's getting harder and harder to find. I think that Gonzaga displays the best at the NCAA Division I level this year, and you see that with the decisions they make offensively, defensively, and in transition. Outside of that IQ, for basketball IQ and being able to process the game speed. When you move from high school to college, are you able? When you move from JUCO to university, are you going to be able to handle the step up in what's required of you on the basketball IQ? Can you translate that? We try to project that. That one's become more and more tough. And again, we grade all these out on every guy 1 to 5. 1 being worst and 5 being best. 5 being elite, top 2 to 3%. 4 being kind of an A down to a high B. Last one we have is adaptability. All right, which for me is versatility, but it's also somebody who can change roles within a game or within a season and really anchor in on their role that they're given, whether it's moving from the starting lineup to a reserve role or moving from a reserve role to the starting lineup, moving from a starter that is a facilitator to the leading scorer or the other way around. Also being able to play a different position within the game. Somebody that can move and play the 2, the 3, and the 4 all in the same game, where we can create matchup problems and actually dictate to the other team how we want to play. So I love versatile guys. I love switchable guys. We like to switch 1 through 5 defensively if we can. And if we don't, we definitely want to go 14 switch with a 5 hard hedge recover or a 5 double fist, trap or something to disrupt it, ice on the wings, So those guys that are capable of being versatile and adaptable to different types of defenses gives you tools in your tool belt when you're playing a team that you may not match up well against, and you got to create some mismatches and be creative and, you know, diversify your normal game plan.
All right, so now I love it. I love it. It's all good stuff there. We're talking about your criteria of a recruit. So you've got a lot of this, I'm sure, from all these guys you've worked with up to this point, but you're still not done. You travel, your journey. You go from Oxford, where you had numerous assistants move on and stay in coaching. We'll throw out one name because he's been a guest on here, KY. Kevin Young, who's now an NBA assistant with the Suns, also a left coast guy. It's our left coast series today. So now you go from Oxford to where?
Well, Kevin Young, I mean, you know, he was just a young cat. He was at Clayton State.
Yeah.
He was a ball player at Clayton State, just to bring Clayton State back into the mix here. Good basketball in Georgia, right? And then Kevin doing all the NBA stuff, and I got a chance to bring him on as an assistant coach. And he wasn't sure whether that's what he wanted to do full time yet. He found himself at Oxford College of Emory University, and by the end of the year, that's where he made the commitment that, hey, I'm going to go be a professional coach. I'm going to be a coach. That's how I'm going to make my career. And I was very fortunate to spend time. And it's just been a blessing to watch KY do what he's doing from afar. And it's been years since I spoke to him. I need to reach back out to him. And I think after this podcast, I need to get his number from you guys, and I'm going to reach out to him again so that we can connect. But after Oxford, I went to Eastern Kentucky University in Richmond, Kentucky, just south of Lexington. We're kind of in the shadow of UK. If anybody's heard of Kentucky basketball, you know, in Lexington, I'm not sure if anybody's aware that they got a pretty good.
Not this year. Nobody's heard of them.
No, that's true. They did struggle this year out of the NCAA tournament, which was wild. But I went in there with Jeff Neubauer, who had been an assistant for a guy named John Beeline, you know, kind of an unknown guy. People probably don't know about John Beeline, you know, with Richmond and West Virginia and Michigan and you know, the Cleveland Cavaliers. But Jeff had been John's lead assistant for about 9 years and been with him at Richmond and West Virginia. They had some great success. They ran this offense that I had been just intrigued by, called the two-guard offense, that Beeline had been running since he was coaching, you know, JUCO basketball. And he coached JUCO, D3, D2, D1, and then in the NBA. He's like probably the only guy in the world that's ever done that. And he's been running this offense. And
only been a head coach.
I know. The lefty was only the head coach too his entire life. High school, D1, never went pro. But it was one of those things where I just called cold turkey. I had no connection to Jeff, and I got a hold of him. He took my call, and kind of like Lefty, over the next week or couple of weeks, we just talked on the phone, you know, every other day. And then he was coming through Atlanta on a recruiting trip, and he says, I'll be in Atlanta tomorrow. And we met at in Decatur. There was a honey baked hams, and so he said, I'm rolling through, I'm going to be somewhere. And he says, where do we want to meet? I said, there's a honey baked ham, and I'll meet you at the honey baked ham. So Jeff, who also went to Fordham after Eastern Kentucky, just left Fordham this past year. But we met at there. I gave him a packet of information and shared with him my coaching philosophy, answered all the questions he had. And then over the next week or so, we talked some more, and he offered me a position on his staff at Eastern Kentucky that he just got hired. He was leaving West Virginia, and he has an assistant coach for Beeline and getting his first Division I head coaching job. And I was fortunate enough to go with him on that staff. And not only that, but learn that two-guard offense, which is something that has been with me ever since I went to EKU. Spent a year and a half at EKU, and ended up moving out to Arizona Western College under Kelly Green at one of the top junior colleges in the country. And spent 4 amazing years there coaching guys, some of which are still playing pro. I mean, Thomas Terrell, who graduated in 2003 out of Georgia State, is just finishing up his 18th year as a pro basketball player. And I think he's going to hang him up. We still keep in touch. Leroy Davis, who graduated in 2004, at no 2003 at Georgia State, is still playing professional basketball. And I've got a load of guys from Arizona Western from 2006 through 2010 that are still playing pro ball overseas. And it's just amazing the amount of talented guys that I was fortunate enough to be a part of their journey.
So you've really hit a lot of spots. I mean, you've been a Division III JUCO, you've been a Division I ops, you've been a Division I assistant. Now you're a JUCO assistant in the West, and now you end up getting a head job again. Where does that take you? Where now you're head coach?
Up the Pacific Northwest, up to Washington State and Port Angeles, Washington at Peninsula College.
Man. And there are a lot of people that don't know this. Explain to all those people who think they know everything about JUCO what that league is and how that works.
Well, it is a league unto itself, okay? It is the NWAC, and it's all of the Washington schools and all of the Oregon schools and a couple of Idaho schools. And it's about, I think at the time that I was there, it was about 36 to 40 schools that competed against each other. And they did not go to the Hutch or to the NJCAA tournament. They had their own tournament called the NWAC tournament, the Northwest Athletic Association Championships. Yeah, so that's what we did. And it was an opportunity to go up to a place where it was just books and basketball. Yuma, Arizona, just books and basketball. Okay. And then Port Angeles, Washington, just books and basketball and beautiful country. You got the mountain where the mountains meet the sea. That being said, went up there in year one, and I had been recruiting so hard at Arizona Western. All I did was recruit. I mean, we would finish a practice at 3:30 in the afternoon, and I would hop in the car, drive to LA to watch the guys that we were recruiting, watch the game, and then drive back to Yuma. Now, for those that don't know, it's 3.5 to 4.5 hours depending on traffic each way. And I would do this throughout the year. Vegas was 4 hours away, and all the tournaments are in Vegas. I was in Vegas to watch high school games after practice and then get back that same night. And then you sleep a couple hours and you go back at it again. But I made it a point, because of the accessibility of Yuma, to be the most seen JUCO assistant in the country, and to be in more gyms and to develop more relationships. And I don't know if I achieved that, but I know that was my goal. And that was something that really helped me, because when I got my head job again, I had a network of guys that I had been working with and recruiting, and coaches that knew me really well. In that, I landed 14 players in about a month and a half after getting the job up in Peninsula. 4 players stayed on. We had a roster of 18, which was probably too large, but then injuries occur, and we end up winning the NWAC championship, which was the first time that had been done in, I think, 50 years, something like that, like 45 or 50 years was the first time that it had been done.
So how long did you stay there?
I was there for 3 years, and 3 great years, but I really felt like I had an opportunity a few years earlier where I was going to serve at a Christian university and be able to really match my faith with my basketball and bring everything together for myself at some point. In 2013, it had to be a great situation to pull me away from Peninsula, but that occurred at William Jessup, and that's how I landed in my last spot, where I've been here for 8 years now.
Give us the town that William Jessup is in, or the city.
Well, William Jessup.
Give us your recruiting speech right now, because the mountain meets the sea up at Peninsula.
Hey, we're nestled into the foothills of the capital city of right here in Placer County, Rockland, California. It's beautiful. It has everything that you need and access to stuff without the traffic. You got Sacktown, which has all of the environment and live sports and professional sports that you could shake a stick at. You go over to the Bay if you want to catch a guy named Steph Curry, and Draymond Green, a guy named Klay Thompson.
Where do I sign? Where do I sign, Coach?
Hey, it's really a great place. It's a beautiful place. Mild temperatures for most of the year. A lot of sunshine, and it's a tough place to leave. And we've been building this university from the ground up. It's an 85-year-old startup. We're kind of like a teenager with all the growing pains of a teenager, because it was a Bible college for 65 years, just turning out pastors. And then in 2004 became a university, opening up all of the programs academically beyond that. And now we have master's degrees, and the schools went from 300 people in 2008 to 2,000 people today. It's one of the fastest growing small college universities in the country, and it's the #2 fastest in the West Coast. And it's just been great to be a part of what we're doing over here.
Man, that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, that journey is all over, not only levels and places, but all over the great U.S. You've seen a lot of the country. So that's going to lead us into our lightning round, where me and Cyril both will ask 2 questions apiece. They may have a little to do with basketball. They may have nothing. And then after that, we'll let you close it down. Cyril, you start us off. You're a great lightning round guy. Go ahead.
And because for the sake of time, because we could talk forever here, Lance, let's make them true lightning ones. I'm a young coach. What book are you recommending for me to read around that? Leadership, coaching, any of that?
Lightning round. Now you're gonna make me think on my feet. I think Toughness by Jay Billis. I think Toughness wins. So Jay Billis, Toughness.
All right. How about podcasts? What are you listening to now, or what's one you would recommend to your assistant?
Other than ours.
Yeah, other than off the beaten path.
Of course, right here. But off the beaten path, when you get beyond that, you go down a level, but it's still very good. Focus 3 podcast by Tim Kite. It used to be by Tim Kite and Urban Meyer. Before that, it was Brian Kite and Tim Kite brothers. But Focus 3 podcast, fantastic stuff.
Gotcha. All right. Zone defense or man defense?
Man defense. All
the way through, huh? Are you
disrupted? I'm a disruptor, so we play some different zones when needed, but I'm man 90% of the time.
Are you shooting threes on the break, or are you going to the rim?
Oh, hey, we love the 3-ball, Dan. Come on now, you know that. Hey, we're gonna take the right shot, but I'm not against a transition 3.
All right, there you go. There's some quick ones. That's the best lightning round we've had with Lance.
I got pressure now to come up with good ones, but I got mine here. All right, best place to eat. You already gave us some Atlanta and Georgia places. Best place to eat when you were at Eastern Kentucky.
Best place to eat at Eastern Kentucky. There was this barbecue joint that was out of the way, and I don't even know if it's still there. But if you're rolling through Richmond, okay, you got to go to Billy's Barbecue. All right, Billy's Barbecue. If it's still there, it's got some it's Kentucky, but they got some Texas toast, and when you put that pulled pork on top, it's fantastic.
All right, Cyril, I expect you to find a picture somewhere through your Google search and have that up when we do this live.
We'll drop that on. All right.
Best place to eat in Arizona when you were at Arizona Western.
Oh man, Arizona, man, you got to go with Mexican food, but I'm going to go taco truck across the border in Los Algodones. So you actually leave, you go across the border into Mexico, 8 miles away. You walk down the street and you sit at this amazing taco truck. You get $1 street carne asada tacos, whatever you want, all the fixings. You add them yourself. And then you buy a $1 original with cane sugar Coca-Cola to wash it down.
Wow, we've had some really good places mentioned, but nothing across the border taco.
All right, we got 2 more real quick, sir. Let me get them in. All right, the Peninsula. Where was the best place to eat up there?
Okay, Peninsula. I'm gonna go. Cedars of Dungeness. Okay, Cedars of Dungeness is a golf course, but they have just the amazing food. And if you like crab and you like seafood, they do it up right. And the CEO there is a former Peninsula guy, and he gave me a free golf membership for my family and I. So it has to be Cedars of Dungeness.
Small time, eat big time.
Yep. All right, last one. Best place to eat where you're at now. Do you go to Sacktown or do you do it right there?
Yeah, I tell you what, just down the road, there's a place called the Chef's Table. And the cool thing about the Chef's Table is when you go in, you have an opportunity to sit right up where the chefs are preparing the meal and talk to them as they prepare the meal, and then they put it right in front of you. So it's a date night deal. I go with my wife. We have a glass of wine, and we get a chance to talk to the chefs and see how they prepare this amazing meal for us. And it's always off the chain. And then we go home and we try to make it ourselves. We butcher it, but we go back to Chef's Table and get it done right again.
How about that? Love it. So Lance, we'd love to keep talking. Let's wrap it up and let's toss it back to you. Do you have any final thoughts, questions, stories that you want to tell, people you'd like to mention, shout out, the kids and beyond, all of that fun stuff? The floor is yours.
I think that, if anybody's listening to this is somebody that's, thinking about a life in coaching or being a collegiate coach, just understand how immersive you have to be and how committed you have to be to it. And you can't do it because of the image of it or what you think it's going to do or provide to you. You really truly have to love it. You got to be in it for the right reasons, because it's a grinded out business, and it's going to require more than any normal job that you would have. It's an investment in your time. It becomes part of who you are. So I just encourage anybody that's doing that, just really think hard and long before you decide to jump into it. But if you're going to do it right, and do it for the reasons that are gonna stand the test of time, maybe some transformational, generational impact. And if you can do that, then get in.
And do it because it's who you are. And that's what we're seeing here on Off the Beaten Path with all these stories we've heard in all of our episodes. And you're a shining example of it, Lance. Thank you. Thank you so much for being on with us today. So for all of those listening, stay connected through our Instagram, Off Beaten Path Podcast, and also the Twitter, Off Beaten Path with the _. So follow along and interact there. Tell Lance you want to hear more stories or you want directions to that taco truck across the border.
I love it. And as we close, just remember this path that we go on with all these great guests that we have, how the journey that all that it takes to go through that journey, and the fun that they have along the way. I think a lot of us want it so fast we don't realize how many moves and how much work Lance did to get where he's at now and be so successful. It's awesome. So we're a show for those who want to coach, those who used to coach, those who are coaching, those who follow coaches, those who unfortunately hire or fire them. And we hope you keep learning and keep sending us more guests to have on.
Thank you guys. Thanks for having me. Take care.
All right.